happened over the past month since the debate, and particularly on Saturday in Butler, I think a lot of people are wondering, what is this? This doesn't look like politics.
Everybody, get a fist up in the air!
Something bigger's going on here. I think even people who don't believe in God are beginning to think, well, maybe there's something to this.
I had God on my side. I felt that.
But given the circumstances, it was right that I came.
And I'll just stop with this. I'm not always convinced that I'm on the right side. I've been on the wrong side many times. You'll never hear me say, I'm on God's side, or God's with me. God is among us right now.
Let Trumpomania run wild, brother! Let Trumpomania rule again!
All right. Yo, 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 ladies and gents, welcome to another episode of Aid Thompson and Other Disappointments. Guys and gals, your twice weekly gallivant through the gallows of modern existence. What's going on? This is your foray through the forlorn. This is your do you know what? I've run out of like alliteration and sort of like half-wordy puns. Let's just get into it. Actually, no, do you know what? Here's another one. Your shimmy through the shameless shambles that passes for modern life. What's going on out there, guys? What's happening out there? Let's get the chat up. What's up to Mojo Sabian? What's up to Joe Lefty? What's up to Billy Kershaw? Ladies and gents, Billy is in the house tonight. Richard Marsden, Diz, how you guys doing? Good to see everybody tuning in. Friday night, 7:30, as per usual. We've got so much to talk about, haven't we? Following this last week. Lots to get through tonight. We've had another week of barrel scraping lows, haven't we? From this internet outage. Which has caused me a few problems today. Just a few. We've had the internet outage this morning and the afternoon with schools and hospitals shut down, and lots of people saying, "Oh, this is awful." Can you believe this hospital has no power? None of the computer systems work. Can you believe it? Then, of course, there's other people who are saying, it's so shocking, it's so bewildering how this could happen. There's a school down the road, they can't open because all their computer systems are shut, and then the rail lines, they're not working now. They're calling it the global Microsoft outage, aren't they? Which is fine, I think, in terms of, terminology. I think it's fine. But I'm calling it a preview of Britain by 2030. So, potato. There were riots in Leeds last night, in which a bus was set on fire. A police car was toppled over onto its head. I don't know if you guys saw that. What else has happened? God, there's so much in politics land this week. Suella Braverman. Just earlier on this afternoon, I saw stuff coming up on the breaking news. It said Suella Braverman might take her leave from the Conservative Party and run off to Reform. Guys, which would be quite funny, I think. She's literally just been re-elected off the back of Conservative Party campaign funds. And then she defects 2 weeks later. I mean, that is the political equivalent of, like when a pretty girl walks up to a sort of nerdy guy like, "Hey, how you doing? Do you wanna buy me a drink?" And then the guy's like, "Oh, okay." "Well, what do you want?" I'll I'll have a Cristal champagne. And Shelley, what do you want, darling? Yeah, he's going to buy us a drink. Yeah, can we get a Cosmo for Shelley as well? And he's like, oh, okay, all right. And then he goes and buys both of the drinks. He's like, here's your drink. And then they go, okay, thanks, bye. That is the equivalent of what Suella Braverman has just done with the Conservative Party, drawing down tens of thousands of pounds in campaign funds, and then as soon as she gets elected, yeah, bye. See you later. I mean, it is like the political equivalent of licking the tip and just walking away, isn't it? That's what it's like. It's licking the tip, Sue. It's unbecoming. I mean, it's the Tories that I feel sorry for, guys. It's the Tories that I feel sorry for. I mean, to lose an intellectual heavyweight like Suella Braverman, I mean, it just doesn't bear critical thinking about often when her name is in the sentence, does it? I mean, how are they going to recover from this catastrophic loss? What else has happened? The Daily Mail, don't know if you saw this, the Daily Mail balked a couple of days ago that GPs, your general practitioners, your local doctor, they might be on the lookout for climate change anxiety, guys. Climate change anxiety, which is a real thing, by the way. Don't know if many people are aware of it. Climate change anxiety. It's where you might get panic attacks. You might get sleepless nights. You might get apprehensive chest, sort of breathlessness as you're worrying about what kind of country or planet your kids might end up inheriting from you. It's climate change anxiety, guys, is what the GPs have termed it. Or common sense to the layman. You could also call it that. Common sense. But yes, GPs are diagnosing and managing cases of climate change anxiety. And the Mail are upset by that for some reason, aren't they? I never really worked that out. It's like the Mail's core sensibility, the one that the rest of them are all like broken off of, like a spider diagram. The Mail's core sensibility is like, don't bloody help them, isn't it? Don't help. Why are you helping them for? Don't listen to their problems. What on earth are you playing at? Why are you helping people? You're bloody doctors, for God's sake. This is almost as bad as the teachers teaching children how to brush their teeth properly. It's just disgusting. Why is everybody trying to be so nice to their fellow man? They must say in their editorial meetings. Why is everybody trying to be so helpy? Now, anyway, park that for a minute while I go away and then tell you what a lovely Christian country this is and how we all definitely still share Christian values. Don't we, guys? After me! Well, could you help this guy over here? Sorry, which one? Who do you want me to help? This guy over here. He's an asylum seeker. And this other one over here, he's one of those, hard up, struggling from deprivation, working class white boys that you always bang on about. Whenever we talk about white privilege, you always wheel people like this lad out as an example of why we shouldn't talk about it. Right, so I'm sorry, I'm lost. What do you want me to do? Do you want to help either one of them? No, fuck them. Amazing. How very Christian of you. Well, this is the thing about being a Christian. Is sometimes when people ask me for help, whether it's a refugee or a struggling white working class lad from a state school, I just do this. I just what do you do? How do you get out of it? I just do. I ask myself, what would Jesus do, Aid? Okay. And, what do you think Jesus would do if he were presented with a hungry, deprived 13-year-old boy and this desperate asylum seeker here? What do you imagine Jesus might do? Well, that's the clever part, Aid. You see, what would Jesus do? Jesus doesn't exist, so he wouldn't do a fucking thing. Would he? That's me off the hook. Anyway, if you excuse me, I've got some constituents to abandon for a week in Milwaukee. So yeah, GPs helping people is apparently bewildering to the Daily Mail once again. What else? What else has been happening this week? Their other friends in the right-wing press have been cheering on as climate change activists have been jailed for longer than bank robbers. For longer than bank robbers. Climate change protesters who didn't even get to protest have been jailed for 5 fucking years. It's insane. Which, look, it might sound like a bad news story. It might sound that way, guys. Jailing climate activists. It may sound bad. It might sound troubling. But actually it's made things a lot clearer, I think, for wider society. Because we used to be left confused sometimes, I think, by jail sentencing in this country. You know, if somebody went through, police, they were charged, then the Crown Prosecution Service step in, and then, they construct a case, and then it all goes up to court, and then the sentencing leaves you, it leaves you disappointed, leaves you hopeless, you don't have much faith in the judiciary, etc., etc. Found it all very, very confusing. But now, at least, when we're assaulted, or stalked, or drugged, or kidnapped, at least now, if we want the judge to take it seriously, we know all we have to do is run up in the courtroom and drape them in a high vis. It's basically what I'm gleaning from this. Bank robber in black and white stripes and a balaclava, 2 years. Protester with blue hair and a green vest, double it. Double it minimum. I mean, it's not just me, is it? It is insane where we've got to now with all this. It used to be with policing and, outfits and colour and all of that. It used to be if you were a person of colour, you would be trembling in the dock, right? That's going to be the thing that gets you more years, more time. It's not a good thing if you were a person of colour in trouble with the law in the courtroom. Nowadays, it's the colour of your outfit on the CCTV. Seemingly. Bank robber costume? Fine. Illuminous vest? You're done. You're never going to see the light of day again. Green is the new black. Is what I've gleaned from this. High-vis vests, dyed hair, eco-activist kind of get-up. People are being judged on their fashion choices in a way that has seldom been seen before, I think. You have a whole new generation of police, detectives, interviewers, constables, a whole new generation of coppers now who sit people down in the interview room and go, what were you wearing, though? Anyway, Tuesday, the fallout from Trump's shooting continued, didn't it, guys? The RNC, the Republican National Convention, which is basically Glastonbury for the unmedicated lunatic American right. It's had... What has it had? Have you been keeping up on the the updates that have come over from Emily Maitlis and Channel 4 News and, CBS or like Fox News or NBC, like if you go stateside for your news. Have you guys been keeping up on this? On the RNC? And who's been performing there? Who's been giving speeches? The caliber of speaker at the RNC. There's been speeches from Matt Gaetz, who is currently fighting accusations of having had sex with a child. He's been there giving a speech. There's been appearances by Russell Brand, who is currently fighting about 15 to 20 accusations of various different kind of sexual assaults. There was Matt Schlapp appearing on a panel, who was also, I don't know why I'm laughing, like it's bewildering is what it is. Matt Schlapp appearing on panels. He was accused of sexual assault last year. And of course, last but by no means least, the infamously prosecuted rapist himself, Donald Trump, who last night gave his speech with gusto, didn't he? He got up there on that stage. He really, really gave, powered by Diet Cokes and Coffees, clearly. Jacked up to the nines. To rows and rows of his most loyal disciples. And MAGA prophets. And his sons. And, just rows of Republicans adoring, hanging on his every word. Tears down their cheeks, listening to him speak. Each one showing their love and devotion to this grand wizard of unity, is what he supposedly is. Don't know if you read that in the papers this week. He's all about unity these days. Rows of followers, disciples, many of them with their supportive sanitary towels kind of taped over the side of their heads so that they look like him with his ear thing. I mean, I don't know if you saw that really, but it's kind of funny, isn't it? It's weird. It's weird and culty. It is honestly like some sort of, dystopian cult satire sketch, isn't it? Like, I was joking on Twitter about it, earlier in the week. I was like, how are these the same people who refuse to take the knee in recognition of the challenges that people of colour have faced? Right? That is just gesture politics, isn't it? That is just virtue signalling. Oh, you bloody virtue signaller. I don't do gesture politics. That's what they always come out with. But now, guys, stand back and watch the first 5 rows tape a fucking tissue to their head. It's utterly ridiculous. Donald got shot in the ear, so now I will also wear a bandage. So I will praise Donald. Give my praise unto the Lord. It's fucking ridiculous. You look ridiculous. I mean, in some ways it's quite cool. Just hear me out. Just for a little bit of balance here. In some ways, it's pretty cool. It's quite useful. Because I'm actually kind of warming to this new fashion trend, if I'm honest with you. Because it allows me to fashion judge other people like I'm a copper judging you for your high-vis. Except instead of a police interview room where I can go, he was wearing a green high-vis and so, he's obviously guilty. 5 years. 5 years and the chair. Instead of that sort of setting, what I can do is, next time I'm at a dinner party or, backstage somewhere or, being introduced to many people at once, one after the other. If somebody comes up to me and they introduce themselves, they happen to be American, and they go, oh, hey there, I don't think that we've met. My name is Hank. It's really nice to meet you. I'll just gently, like, move my head around. Just take a little glance at their ear. Oh, like, you see the bandage? You're like, yeah, it's nice to meet you too, Hank. Listen, I really need to go and say hello to Sally. Yeah, but later. Bye. Nice to meet you, though. Yeah. Just completely swerve them, you know? It's like they're wearing a red flag, isn't it? It's like... or it's like they're wearing... You know, in, like, some of the, like, American Pie and Road Trip and, like, some of those sort of naughties, teen, gross-out movies, you know, they would make the... I've got to be careful with my language here. The R-word one, right? You know, the stupid one. They would make the stupid one wear, like, this sort of multicoloured twirly bird hat. Like the guy, what movie was it where he has the thing on and he's got, like, earmuffs on his head? There's something about Mary, right? And then when they take the earmuffs off, then he's like, don't touch it! He goes, like, really violent. I'm sure he wore, like, a twirly bird thing. But, like, if you saw somebody wearing a multicoloured twirly bird hat, there would be certain connotations, wouldn't there? You'd be drawing certain conclusions. Like, I don't know if that person is, you know, the most intelligent person I've ever... And it's the same thing with the ear bandage. If I was introduced to somebody who was wearing the ear bandage, I'm sorry, I would judge them and leave. I mean, I'll tell you what it reminds me of, actually, right? I'll tell you what it reminds me of. Seeing these rows of people also wearing the ear bandages. It reminds me of, like, a few years ago, when that band Slipknot first came out. Did anybody remember Slipknot? People in the live chat? Because when they first came out, like, this sort of death metal band kind of thing. Death metal, speed metal, I don't know. I wasn't a big fan. But I was aware of them. And I remember when they first came out, there was a guy at my work, at the job that I used to do, and he was sort of excitedly telling me about how I think he'd gone to see them, or he had watched a video or some sort of, like, MTV, like, mini documentary about them or something. I can't remember. And anyway, he was telling me excitedly how they had got 5,000 people to bow down to them, right? In the arena. 5,000 people bowing down to this metal band. And so he's telling me this, like, all excited about it. And I'm like, 5,000 people. Because even when I was, like, 18, 19, I was a cynical fuck. Right? It's like 5,000 people, really, all bowed down in front of them. Jesus Christ. I was so unimpressed. Must have really, like, pissed on his chips. Because he knew I was into bands, so he's probably telling me because it was a thing that we were both into, and then he tells me the thing that's supposed to be exciting, and I just completely stamp on his flowers about it. So he's like, oh, they got 5,000 people, make them bow down, and I'm like, oh, whatever. But he was loving it. He was loving it, and I just thought it was the saddest, dumbest thing to bow down and worship this metal band. Like, not even in a sort of, like, a Wayne's World kind of funny way, you know, like, we're not worthy, like, none of that. It was, like, serious, just on their knees in some sort of theatrical display of messianic worship. It's what it was. And I remember being like, Jesus Christ, like, 5,000 people all bowing down to a band. Like, don't any of these people have any fucking self-respect or self-esteem? And then I sort of, like, cut myself off in the middle of, like, saying that. I was like, well, I mean, it is Slipknot, I guess, right? So, probably not. Like, you know, you're not gonna find 5,000 emotionally healthy people at a Slipknot concert. You're just not. Anyway, back to the RNC. Has anybody been keeping tabs on Farage over the last week? People in the live chat, I've got people talking about Slipknot now. And Richard Marsden's like, Corey Taylor is a genius, and what a voice. Yeah, I mean, they are one of these bands where I sort of fully accept that they give a large number of people a product that is really valuable to them, you know? But every time I've ever heard a Slipknot song or seen a Slipknot video, I've always come away feeling like it's really gimmicky, you know, with the masks, the over-theatricalness of it, you know? Theatricalness, is that a word? Probably not. Theatricity, is it? I don't... Completely showing my lack of English skills now tonight. I feel like it should be theatricity or something. Anyway, let's get back to the RNC, shall we? So have we been keeping tabs on Farage this week since he tore himself away? Absolutely. He really didn't want to leave, but he just had to leave Clacton for a few days, guys. Just a few days. Just to go and run to your boy Donny. Tore himself away, so he did. I mean, this started, right? This started last weekend in the immediate aftermath of the shooting. He published a piece in The Telegraph. I don't know if any of you saw it, but it was something along the lines of why I'm flying to be with my friend Donald. Why this? You need to know this. This is a mystery. You won't know it unless you read this blog. Why I'm flying away to be with my friend Don. And everyone's like, why have you bothered writing? Who is this for? Like, why you're flying away? Like, is it, you know, if it was a quiz show question, you'd be like, beep, I've got it. Is it because you'd actually rather be in America anyway? Is that what it is? And now things are looking less jaily for him? Now you're going to try and make bank on this grief grift? Is that about right? Did I win a prize? Did I? So he flies over to the RNC, and Emily Maitlis of the News Agents, formerly of Newsnight, Emily Maitlis corners him, or invites him to a little interview, little vox pop sort of jobby. And she asks him why he's there, right? Why is the Member of Parliament for Clacton, only 2 weeks after having been elected, and still yet to hold one MP surgery in those 2 weeks, why is the member for Clacton over at the RNC in Milwaukee? Why? What is this? Why are you here? She's not that sort of, incredulous about it. She's way more professional, much more polite. And that's why we love her. But anyway, he replies. He says, basically a load of variations, because she keeps sort of pushing. He just says a load of variations of like, well, he's my friend, and so it was right that I came. And she's like, well, did he ask you to come? And he's like, no, not Donald personally, but no, his people from his team, people from his circle, just thought that it might be good if his friend Nigel came over to see him. And she's like, well, okay, have you spoken to him since the shit? And he's like, no. So it's a little bit tragic, and there's this like 7-second pause in that interview that's so it made my minge cringe, and I don't even have a vagina. It was so painful to watch. She was like, have you spoken to him? Or like, did he ask you to come? And then he's just staring at her. He's just doing that that step, and he's like, he nearly died. He nearly died. Like, that's it. Which is, true. He did nearly die. But I think what we're getting at here, Nige, is did he specifically ask you to come over? Doesn't sound like he did. Have you spoken to your friend Donald, who would need you by his side? Have you spoken to him? Have you seen him? It's no. So really what this is, any of this is Nigel Farage doesn't want to be in Clacton. He would rather be at the RNC. That's what all of this comes down to. And then Channel 4 News catch up with him. And it's 2 days later now, 2 days after the Emily Maitlis interview. So you would expect, if Nigel Farage really is a friend of Donald Trump, they've been friends for years, he says, it was only right that he came. People from the inner circle had asked for him to come along. You would think 2 days later, even if maybe beforehand Donald Trump was just really, really busy, maybe he just wants to be around family after he's just been shot, you could kind of understand that. But 2 days later, if you're such BFFs, you would think by that point that you might have caught up with him, right? So Channel 4 News catch up with Nigel Farage. 2 days later, it's now the end of the conference, and they're like, "So have you have you seen him yet?" And he's like, "No, not yet." Right? I would have just lied. Just lie, Nige. Just say yes, you saw him in passing, and you hope to catch up more with him later. Nobody's going to pull you up on it. Literally nobody. Have you seen him yet, Nige? No, not yet. Like, it's so tragic, isn't it? Just running around after him, desperate to be seen with him, desperate to get that photo, to get some of that sweet, sweet proxy PR, high profile fox juice is basically what it is. Please increase my profile in that lucrative American market, please. And now what's happened? Now he's left Milwaukee. I hope I'm saying that right. Milwaukee. Sounds better in American accent, right? Milwaukee. Sounds weird in a British... Anyway. It's like when you hear Americans say bloke, or quid. Like, I've got a friend called Joe, who's American. And whenever I hear him say mate or quid or bloke, it never lands right. It's like, can I get you a drink, Joe? And he's just like, oh yeah, no problem. Let me give you the money for it because I gotta go. How much? 6 quid? It's just like quid. Oh hey mate, how you do? Like, no, don't try it. Of course, my appealing to him to not try British slang is not helped by the fact that I clumsily put on an American accent quite often when I see him. I'm sure that doesn't go down well either. Anyway. He's left Milwaukee. Nigel Farage has left Milwaukee without seeing his, quote, friend, Donald Trump, who it was only right that he should fly over immediately, abandon his constituents, and, it turns out Donald Trump has pied him off completely. And I think this is what I find so funny about this, is like, people like Nige, or Nige specifically in this case, they would have us believe... that he and Donald are BFFs, wouldn't they? They're the Ant and Dec of the alt-right. Is what they are. They're the Bill and Ted of political bellandry. Is what they are, guys. Best friends. Well, Donald's my friend. I've known him for a number of years. It was only right that I came to be by his side. Right, okay. They have us believe that they're best friends. And then you get one of these rare glimpses, don't you? Where you get to see what the dynamic actually is. And it's like, Donald over here. This sort of huge, like, sun-like creature. And then you've got Nigel, sort of, vaguely in orbit all the way back here, right? Loads of other planets that are significant characters. Sons, daughters, advisors, best friends that Donald's known for years. Loads of people, like, in between. Nigel way, way at the back. Loosely in orbit. He may lose orbit. He's a planet that might later be categorized as a moon. That's how insignificant he is to the rest of this solar system. Just this periphery figure. And I said this to Tan yesterday, Super Tansky. But this is the most transparent thing about these kinds of people, right? Your Boris Johnsons, your Nigel Farages. Like, it's how quickly people like Boris or Farage drop their narcissist, showman, center of attention shtick, right? Which they both have. Boris and Nigel are both, give me attention, give me the spotlight. They need to be center of attention. It's how quickly they drop that to go running off to their bad boy hero that confirms the raging insecurities that flow underneath all of that other ostentatious veneer, isn't it? Like, I guess you think it's like, what if we all just told Nigel that he was really good? What if we filled that chasm, that low self-esteem, those insecurities? What if we filled that? If we all got together and we were all just like, Nigel, you're really good. You are. You're not all bad. You're good enough. Do you think it would fill the black hole where the self-esteem and the self-worth was supposed to be? If we all just in unison hugged Nigel Farage, could it rewrite his many, many wrongs, do you think? I mean, I would do it just for, philanthropy, because that's the kind of nice guy I am. But, even if you had to pay people to hug him, I mean, still, it would probably work out as a pretty solid investment. It would be comparatively cheap versus the financial damage that he has caused through his lack of self-worth. Because, picture this, right? If we had all chipped in back in the day, if we'd all chipped in to fund his psychotherapy sessions in the 90s, right? So he didn't go chasing this political limelight and blaming all of his problems on other people. If we just chipped in for the psychotherapy sessions, he might not then later cost us £100 billion from Brexit every single year. It would have been comparatively cheap. You see, Tories, this is what I mean. Like, it's not all, fluffy lefty stuff when we talk about, we should probably offer therapy to as many kids as possible. It's not all fluffy lefty stuff. It's not all woke. It's not all HR and mollycoddling. If you look into people's issues early on, before they cause problems, while they're still young, then they don't grow up and blow up into costing the UK economy $100 billion a year. It's a good investment. Food for thought. If not the supermarket produce sections. Right. What else, guys? I mean, I suppose, actually, just quickly, while it lands in my head, I suppose the other option is that we could get Slipknot to bring him out, right? And then get 5,000 people to bow down to him. That could fill the hole also, couldn't it? I suppose, yeah, and then finally, maybe the last option he could have, if you do suffer from low self-esteem, if you do have a problem with self-worth manifesting in really unfortunate, embarrassing ways, there is always the option of starting a YouTube channel like everybody else. Richard Marsden saying, did you see Kevin O'Sullivan blaming the Secret Service women for being too fat and too short? Really? I'm not sure I can believe that Kevin O'Sullivan would say something so tasteless and mean. Kevin O'Sullivan, really? God. He always seemed so nice. I mean, I think I was invited on his show once. His producer got in touch with me on a Twitter DM, and he was saying something I'd been ranting about on Twitter, and he was like, do you want to come on the show and talk about it? Kev can be, he's a tough bastard, but, once the cameras are off, he's a lovely guy, and he's just up for a good debate, really. And I said yes, and they didn't get back to me. And that makes me think he then went and looked at my Twitter and saw probably something like, Tories fuck livestock. He's probably, who the fuck is this guy? Do you need a CAT scan, Ronald? Don't book this guy. You think Farage would throw himself in front of Agent Orange to take one for the team? Oh, do I think he would? No, I don't. I think for most of these people, probably not all, because some of them, I think, are probably stupid enough to. And they've bought into the cult, like, Kool-Aid factor of it, where they truly do think that Donald Trump is, the next Messiah or whatever. So for some of them, I really think they would jump in front of him and take a bullet. But I don't think Farage is in that category. And the reason I think that is because he was due to go out to the United States where he was sort of planning to work. And when it started to look like Donald Trump was going to prison and that he was going to lose these court cases, which, now actually they look like they're going to go in his favor, right? But when it looked like it was bad for your boy Donny, Farage was like, I've changed my mind. I'm allowed to do that. It can happen sometimes in politics. I know, wild. But anyway, now I'm going to run for Clacton. So I feel like he's very much a fair weather friend. And I think, it's difficult to categorize taking a bullet in the fucking chest as a fair weather thing. Unless he could be guaranteed he wasn't going to die and then Trump would always be in his debt. Like that, I could see it then happening. Anyway, I don't think so, generally. Anyway, let's move on from the Republican National Conference, shall we? Let's talk a little bit about Joe Biden, shall we? It's very US-flavoured today, for obvious reasons, because, the RNC, the shooting, lots of hysteria around Joe Biden. This is where the news is coming from at the moment, so let's get into it. What do we think is the Biden situation today? How do we think the Joe Biden thing is gonna shake out? People in the live chat, people on the comments, people listening to this later on Spotify and Apple podcasts. How do we imagine the Joe Biden situation is going to shake out? Do we think he's going to step down? Do we think that's imminent? I've heard lots of rumours suggesting he is sort of, weighing up his options this weekend. Who do we think is going to replace him? Is it going to be Kamala Harris? Is it going to be Gavin Newsom? Could he step up? Do we think we've got enough time to run a new Democratic Party candidate and have them beat Donald Trump, who is polling ahead in all of these key states? Because I was thinking, how long do you need? How long does it take if the outcome you're looking for is to slowly massage the narrative, right? To introduce a new character to the American political system and the American media and celebrity circuit, if we're honest. How long does it take if what you're looking to achieve is to introduce a new face into the narrative and basically manipulate people's minds with the odd, Jimmy Kimmel appearance and the odd People magazine interview and probably, a cheeky little SNL cameo or something? Like, how long do you need to make someone look cool to the electorate? Or make them look fun? Or likable? Have them pass the beer test, right? Because Kamala Harris, she's not unlikable, is she? She speaks quite well, I think. She's all right. She's not bad looking, which shouldn't matter, but it does in American politics and to some extent over here. Like, she's not fun, right? She's okay. She smiles. She's upbeat. She's obviously a very well-versed, intelligent, politically aware operator. But she's not particularly witty or charismatic, I wouldn't have said. Which means in order to get her to pass the beer test, right? I.e., which candidate would you most like to go for a beer with, which we've been over many, many times on this podcast, is, basically it's the watermark for who ends up winning the election. Who would you rather go for a beer with? If she is to pass the beer test, she needs time, right? But how much time would it take for that stealth campaign to slowly get Floridians and Michiganians Michigan? People that live in Michigan. How long would it take to get them over the line into thinking, yeah, you know what? I'm all in on Kamala. To be honest with you, I was not sure before, but now I think she's all right. I'm with Kamala. Walking around wearing Kamala t-shirts, Kamala stickers, Kamala bumper stickers, Kamala things up in the house, people knocking on doors. Can we count on your vote for Kamala Harris? How long does it take for media operatives to build that buzz? You know, where does she sit on the likability versus PR campaign timescales, cross-section? You understand what I mean? I think that's what we need to know here, because we know when the election is, right? If there was no election in the diary, you could just off-board Joe Biden, bring in Kamala, and you'd have all the time in the world. But we know when the election is, and we know she's not particularly overly likable or charismatic. So how long would it take to get people to love her? That is what we need to establish. Partly because, you know, we want to know what her chances are of keeping Donald Trump out of the White House, but mostly because, you know, I've been running my own stealth PR campaign for 3 years while doing this podcast, and I've yet to still see any dividends whatsoever. So I would quite like to know what the equation is of unlikability versus PR campaigning. You know, how long might success take for someone as fundamentally unlikable as me? Is really what I want to figure out. But no, I was reading earlier, right? I was reading earlier about how one of the reasons that Kamala Harris is a shoo-in is because, and this is quite interesting. Well, I thought it was quite interesting. Richard saying, seems if you say Hock Tour, you're in. Yeah, I mean, all you need is a catchphrase, right? All you need is a catchphrase. Just one hit. Hashtag Booge. Hashtag Bimfluencer. Hashtag your dad's balls. You see, I'm trying. You thought all of this stuff was just silly stuff that comes out of my mouth while I'm doing these shows. No. It's all pre-planned PR nonsense. It's not really. It is all just mental illness just flowing out of my face. What was I talking about? Oh, yes. So the thing I was reading about Kamala Harris, one of the reasons that she is seen as basically the only option now is because it is she and Joe Biden who are named on the ticket, so to speak. All of the documentation, all of the bank accounts, all of the admin, everything says, like, you know, the campaign of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. That's how it's phrased. That's how it's documented, etc., etc. That is who all of the donors have allocated money to. Is like, you know, checks, and all of this stuff has to be audited. So it all goes into the campaign fund for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. So it's basic. Think of it like a joint bank account, okay? So if Joe Biden now drops out, technically, Kamala Harris can still use it. She can still use those funds, and it's not even really a big thing. But if they put somebody like Gavin Newsom up, who is my preferred candidate, just because I think he's most likely to beat Trump, if they put Gavin Newsom up as the candidate, all of that $100 million, which is what's estimated to have been, you know, collated through donors, through fundraising, that $100 million would then have to be returned to each of the donors and effectively requested again and ledgered and checked and audited. And so then there's a risk that if they did that, the donors might either, you know, not donate again or not get round to it in time, or the checks might not clear in time. Do you understand what I mean? It gets really icky and complicated if they go with a completely different candidate. So yeah, there is this fear that is leaking out now, out of the Democratic Party and its, you know, journo-political circles, that, you know, like, what if we lose that 100 million? We might need that money to buy ads and leaflets and hire people to go door knocking and, you know, to make Kamala more likable. We need that $100 million to make Kamala more likable. But then it's like, you know, you pan out a bit and you think about, you know, look at this a little bit deeper. You know, is the only reason that you need the $100 million because Kamala sits here on the likability, you know? Like, you need the 100 million to make her more likable with the stealth PR campaign. But if it wasn't Kamala, would you even need the $100 million? If you put Gavin Newsom up front, who is great looking, a great communicator, charismatic, would you need the same amount of money? I honestly don't know if you would. You might get somebody who stands a higher chance of beating Trump for less money. You know? Now think of it like this, right? The royals, the royal family in this country. The royals are only half popular because they spend tens of millions of pounds on PR every year. That is, I'm sorry if there's royalists that are listening to this who don't want to hear this stuff, but it's true. The royal family spend more money on PR than any other state-funded PR institution in the world. It is insane. And that is how they are able to prop up the royal family, the Windsors, Kate, William, King Charles, all of it. That is how they're able to, I don't know, perpetuate this sort of faux popularity, which actually has fallen below 50% for the first time last year. So maybe it doesn't always work. But yeah, I always tell royalists that. I always say, you know, the only reason that they're popular is because they spend all of that money on PR, and you're effectively being brainwashed, you know? And you might not like hearing that from me. You might think I'm obnoxious for saying that. But here's a real mindfuck for you. If I spent $15 million every year on PR, you would love me. So how about that shit? Well, that's the same as Kamala Harris. $100 million. Is what it might cost to make her likable enough to vote her in as President of the United States. They got $100 million in a war chest. And what do they want to do with it? They want to go Windsor with it, is basically what they want to do, for want of a better phrase. But I suppose a word of caution, you know, just while we still got, well, fuck me, it's almost 8:30 already. Just while we still got time, a word of caution for people who do throw all of their eggs into the PR basket, an expensive PR basket. It doesn't always work, you know, even with the royals. Prince Andrew has a public relations agent that he uses. We should probably fire, I would have thought. Do you know who else does? Michelle Mone has PR representation. I mean, what the fuck are they doing? So it doesn't always work. I mean, can you imagine Prince Andrew approaching your PR agency and saying like, yeah, I was wondering if you could do some PR for me to improve my public image and get me sort of back on the straight and narrow. I was just wondering if you could be my PR agency. For I can imagine them spitting their coffee out. Like, are you joking? Us improve your reputation. This is a fucked up situation, Andrew, where us even being associated with you damages our public profile. So no, I don't even want to have coffee with you. I can't even be seen with you. Piss off, you weird, sweaty nonce burger. Guys, that's about it. We'll go back into the live chat for a little bit, shall we? As we've got sort of 5-10 minutes. Billy Kershaw says Kamala in combats and an AR. Yeah, she could win over maybe some of the, you know, southern state rednecks like that. As part of her PR campaign. People were saying on the radio earlier they're already seeing way, way more of Kamala Harris now over the last like couple of weeks than they ever have seen over the last 4 years, because now it's becoming real. Now everyone knows that Biden basically has to just relinquish control, step down and retire. And that's why you're starting to see more and more pictures of her, more interviews, etc., etc. Siskin Hedge says Gavin Newsom is the Democrats' Ron DeSantis. Do you mean that in the sense that he is, you know, ideologically exactly where you would expect a sort of a lib to be, because he's governor of California, which is obviously, you know, a very Democrat state or Democrat heavy state. I think he's put in some policies in California which a lot of people would construe or misconstrue as sort of, you know, liberal ultra. I know he got himself in trouble last week, didn't he, for implementing some sort of gender/school policy. I guess, yeah, I mean, I imagine that if he is taken to task on how much he could reach across the divide to connect with everyday, quote-unquote, everyday Americans, you know, people who are not particularly fussed about, you know, the gender binary and the trans debate and, you know, people who just want to put gas in their tank and, you know, healthcare and, you know, jobs, like the economy, you know, stereotypical traditional American voters in like Iowa and Michigan. I guess you could make a case that he might struggle. But you know what? I was watching an interview with him last week and I was like, he's so good at just being himself and being charismatic and charming. I think if he was given the right, you know, what's the word? Exposure. I think people could warm to him, you know? I think he could have a sort of... He might not be quite as charismatic as Bill Clinton, but he could have a Clinton-esque kind of reach, I think, where he makes people feel good. I think that's possible. Billy Kershaw says, just stop oi? Just stop oi. Is that a reference to, like, have I not spoken enough about the climate guys that got imprisoned, or is that just you telling me, look, Aid, just stop, oi, just stop that, that's enough. Let's see, what else have we got? Patrick Mook says, hi from Ireland, when are you rejoining the EU? We want you mad lads back. Look, you're probably preaching to the choir here in the chat for this show. Obviously we all want to rejoin the EU. I'm not in as much of a hurry about it as other people because I am, brag alert, I am the proud recipient of an ancestry Irish passport these days. Hey! And it is impossible to wipe the smug smirk from my face as I go through the EU gates and my girlfriend and children are stuck back at the UK checks. Yes, I am that mean. I'm... not in as much of a hurry to rejoin as I perhaps once was. I want us to rejoin the EU, or at least the single market, sooner rather than later, because I believe that it is our only credible route to economic growth in the immediate. I think it's a no-brainer. I wish that it could happen, you know, immediately, but yeah, Keir Starmer's Labour Party have said that he can't see us rejoining the EU in his lifetime. So, you know, what the fuck do I know? Probably won't happen, will it? I don't think he will step down. He's not good with steps, says Richard Marsden about Joe Biden. Yes, yeah, maybe that's the fear. It's like, right this way, Joe. Down these two. No, not like that. Oh my God. It was barely a step. Jesus Christ. Anyway, right, let's wrap this up, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in again. If it's your first time tuning, do try to subscribe, leave me a little comment. I do these every Friday night at 7:30 to 8:30. And then my good friend Graham Hughes starts Politics Social. So if you want to Google Politics Social, you can, or like search for it on YouTube, right? He starts at 9 o'clock. He's usually got a few guests on. I haven't been on Politics Social for the last few weeks because I'm actually having a break from the old booze. That's why I've got my water here. Normally I'm kicking back with a couple of beers, right? But I did the election night party, then I did the Patreon meetup, and like that Sunday I just felt utterly abysmal. I just felt rotten. Like, you know when you have like two or three nights on the go with all the beer, alcohol, and like bad food and taxis and sleeping on the sofa, and gets to Sunday and you're just like, oh, I honestly feel like I can feel my internal organs are just pickled, you know. I felt horrific. So I'm having a little break, and I'm seeing how long I can last. Probably won't last forever, but I'm feeling good for having had a little break at the moment. So yeah, I haven't sort of stayed up late having beers, being on Politics Social for the last few weeks. That's why I've not been on there. But I'm sure I'll be back on soon. So That's it from me. Keep it strictly hashtag Binfluencer. Guys, keep it booge. Take care of yourselves. And I am out this motherfucker.